We're very excited to host a best practices on virtual instruction by our provost and a panel of faculty members.
Hello all, I am Carrie Higgins-Dobney from Media Communications and Journalism. I am a colleague of Candace Egan's, so I am looking forward to seeing all of your bloopers, and I'm sure I have a few that I can add to that pile as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about the presentation of your materials online. While I was starting to throw all of my stuff up on Canvas when we made this move to virtual, I started thinking about the types of things that we actually click on when we're scrolling through our Twitter feed or Facebook or Google or anything else. And I realized that if something has a huge amount of just words, text, we tend to not click on it. We like the visuals for it. So one of the first things that I started doing was to try very hard to avoid slamming my students with a wall of words, right? And it's fairly easy to avoid this just by adding a little bit of white space, adding some pictures, some video, even some colorful subtext, as long as, of course, they are compliant. And if you are in Canvas, there's a little icon that shows you whether or not it is applicable to everybody, so that you can see it, and your contrast is perfect for that. But I still keep it simple. We are not web designers here. Quite frankly, in this transition, we didn't have time to make these, fabulous looking things that we had available to us. But so I started by adding just simple pictures. And next slide, please. So for my classes, when I found out that we were going online, I teach a lot of TV production and journalism. So when the rumors started, the first thing I did was grab my phone and I started taking pictures of everything possible that I thought might be helpful for my students, this being one of the pieces of equipment that we use. We are visual, a lot of us are visual people, a lot of us are visual learners, and we all have different types of learners. I could have put this same lesson up online as text. The bottom row of the switcher is green. It is the preview row. The row above it is red. It is the program row that puts your pictures online. But I think it is much more effective that I actually have the picture of the box itself. I labeled it. This took me maybe 2 minutes, and I was working in a program, whatever the Mac default program is. I had never used it before, and I was able to upload it to Canvas and put it into a tutorial for my students. And I think it made things a lot easier for them. A lot of them thanked me and were like, we should have done this earlier. So I have written that down, and this will be part of what goes up on Canvas in future terms for some of my classes. So I use a lot of these images. I also add in some short videos. I use examples that students have put together in previous terms, which is that picture there on the right. We have our artist with his I am sad, that he spent hours on creation there. I have professional examples depending on whatever it is that you are teaching. And then I have some of my own short tutorials online myself. And when I say short, if it involves me, I try to keep it as short as possible. I spent 20 years working in TV behind the camera. I was not planning on being on camera now, so I try to keep them to 5 minutes or less, if at all possible. I use a Google Chrome extension called Screencastify. The free version cuts you off at 5 minutes, so it keeps me from rambling. So there are a lot of good things about that, and it's easy to use. I have a tutorial up, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I make them bite-sized, and then after that, we follow it up with a discussion or a reflection. And I use these visual and audio techniques not just for me talking to my students. I allow them to also submit audio and video. Obviously, you can't do this for all assignments, but for things that we would have an informal discussion in, if we were doing our face-to-face class, I give them the option. You can do a text reflection or a text discussion, answer, or you can send me an audio file or a video file. And in Canvas, it is a checkbox for your submissions. You've got your online text, you've got your external tool. You can click one that's called media. and then they can send you an audio or video file. And as much as they like to occasionally see us, I also really appreciate it when I can see and hear them when I'm not necessarily expecting it. So, so that works both ways. It's helpful for them because they spend a lot of time right now sitting on the computer typing. So this gives them a little bit more of a creative outlet if they want to. I have met pets and kids and everything else through some of these discussion and reflections, which is just kind of awesome. And it helps make that personal connection. Next slide, please. And then, yes, we've been talking about the human element and adding a little bit of a sense of humor. I call this stress relief. Snoopy, Calvin and Hobbes dancing, everything else, they are part of both my introductions to my classes on Canvas, especially during this transition time that we are in. They also occasionally show up as quiz and exercise answers, just to relieve a little bit of the stress. So final slide, please. So quick summary, there it is. Keep it simple, break up the wall of words, allow the students to use alternate methods other than text, just like we can do. I allow them to do it as well, obviously only when appropriate. I have tutorials that the CFE has and that are also up on my YouTube for how to get pictures into Canvas easily in a size that doesn't take up all of the limited Canvas storage space. That was something that I had to grapple with when I started uploading huge amounts of pictures and some videos. How to use Screencastify, which, like I said, limits my ramblings to 5 minutes. And then how to use things like Adobe Spark, which is an easy, free is always good, templated program to make multimedia pages. Students like using things like that in order to hand in a little bit more creative and interactive assignments that are a little more visually digestible. And I have also been able to teach with that format a bit as well. All of my contact information is up there on the screen if you have any questions. I'm on the Twitters all the time there at Director Carey. I answer emails. And I think that link there on the YouTube is the correct one. And if it's not, I'm sure somebody will let me know very quickly. So thank you.